who's worked with charter schools for over 13 years. She graduated from St. Mary's College of California with a Bachelor of Arts degree in English with pre-medicine studies. She completed her Master's of Arts in Education from Pepperdine University. She enjoys working with families as the principal of options for youth charter schools in Sacramento and has held that position for the last 4 years. Her passions include arts education, culinary adventures, sounds good to me, experiential learning, and finding ways to re-engage students in the learning process to help develop the sense of possibility for their future. Outside of work, she has a husband and 2 young sons, 2 and 4, so you want some tips? You know who to talk to, Kristen? Okay. So the 2 young sons are 2 and 4, and they have a black cat named Pumpkin who keeps her very busy. Okay, so there you go. So without further ado, here's Jocelyn Baldwin.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and I am very honored to be able to speak with you a little bit tonight about options for youth charter schools and a little tiny background about charter schools in general, and I can open it up at the end to ask if you have any questions to ask of me. But I do want to start with just an expression of gratitude for allowing me to spend some time with you tonight. We very much like to instill that into our students to appreciate when we have opportunities and experiences to engage our different skills in life. And this is actually one of my first public speaking events beyond my students and my staff, and so I really appreciate that opportunity to come out and speak into the community and really talk about my passion as an educator and about our program. And so I'm really excited about that. I kind of want to start off, and maybe some of you have seen, have you guys seen the Charles Schulz philosophy? It's kind of a misnomer. Yes. Charles Schulz really didn't write this article, but there's these 10 questions, and the first 5, I'll kind of run through them real quick. Maybe think about them in your head, or maybe talk to your neighbor real quick. Can you name the 5 wealthiest people in the world? No. Yes. Okay. Can you name the last 5 Heisman Trophy winners?
No.
Can you name the last 5 winners of the Miss America contest?
No.
It's kind of funny right now, right? Name 10 people who have won the Nobel or Pulitzer Prize. Last half dozen Academy Award winners for Best Actor and Actresses. And name the last, and this one you guys might get. Name the last decade's worth of World Series winners.
I can't.
I had a baseball club here, so I got a good one on number 6. And then there's this change that happens in Charles Schulz philosophy. Again, Charles Schulz did not write this, it's kind of a misnomer. List a few teachers that aided you through your journey.
Yes.
Many people can kind of name somebody. Name 3 friends that have helped you through a difficult time. Probably all have some friends that have helped us. Name 5 people who have taught you something worthwhile. Think of a few people who have made you feel appreciated and special. Think of 5 people you enjoy spending time with. And name a half a dozen heroes whose stories have inspired you. And so this activity, I think, is really nice, and it's more of a thinking kind of tool that I've used this tool with many of my students over the years to think about, yeah, it's great if you want to be a rap star or you want to do these things that are big and bright and shiny, but you also have to value what you do and how you spend your time with people around you, and really express the gratitude that you have for the people that are helping you along the way, and for the people that are coming alongside you and are going through the journey with you. So it's really just kind of a nice brain warmer for our students, and kind of a way to kind of get them thinking about, okay, everything that you do in your life is something that's really important. And it's something, as we move through, our relationship building process with our students at Options for Youth, we really take a lot of time to really build that, rapport with them, with the families, and with those students. So thank you again for following me through that exercise. Let's see. This will be interesting as I kind of go through here. So what is Options for Youth? Options for Youth is a charter school here in Sacramento. It was started in 1987, though. The journey goes way back in the late 80s, with two of our founders, John and Joan Hall. They were teachers for Hollywood High in Los Angeles, and really found that a lot of students were not being served by the traditional school model. And so they started kind of thinking, how can we really help these students that, were getting kicked out of traditional schools, they were getting kicked out of Hollywood High, they were just not making it in the traditional mold. And so what they did was they started creating a curriculum and started one of the first types of schools before charter schools were even a thing in California. The charter school law didn't even start, charter schools didn't start until 1991 in the state of California. But John and Joan started with a contract school in Los Angeles with LAUSD. And so that was, kind of the first foray into education for these two educators that had been working for many years in LAUSD. Currently, we are the largest and oldest charter school in the state of California. There are 12 different charters that are kind of under the umbrella of what Joan and John have started with Options for Youth and another sister school called Opportunities for Learning. The oldest charter that they have is charter number 13. Charters 1 through 12 have since disbanded, so we are the oldest charter school in the state of California, which really tells you something as far as how much innovativeness that we've really had to go through over the last 20, 30 years here. How many of you guys have had any type of interaction with charter schools? Okay. Good things, bad things?
Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Good. So I think, that's, something, as I'm looking as an educator, and I have hopefully many years ahead of me, I look to, what do I want to do with my life as an educator, and with the idea of charter schools being so innovative and being able to really be on that cutting edge of technology, cutting edge of education, and be able to really move with the fluidity of our students. And so when I first started back in 2003, I was just fresh out of graduate school, and I was like, oh, wow, teaching's a really hard job, right? I got up in front of a classroom for 7 hours a day, and by the time I was done, I was exhausted, doing my regular student teaching in a traditional school model, and I really kind of questioned, hey, is this really something I want to do with the rest of my life? Can I physically sustain this? I'm not the most loud, outgoing person. I had to really exert myself to project. Thank you for the microphone tonight, appreciate that. But it is something that isn't for everybody, even though you might have that willingness and excitement to teach. And so I was really looking for an alternative as an educator myself. And one of the other students that was in the Pepperdine program with me, she said, hey, come take a look, Jocelyn. I work for this school, and I get to work with 5 kids an hour. I really get to know them, get to really build that relationship, and here I am grading 120 English essays, and she's like, yeah, I've got 50 kids, I get to see 5 an hour, and I'm like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Tell me more. So she invited me to come out and take a look at the Learning Center. And the Learning Center that I worked at originally probably was no bigger than this room. A teacher in each corner, probably smaller than this room. And we had, 5 or 6 students an hour. And because we are an independent study program, we really get to know each student individually. And that is kind of the keystone of our program, is the ability to really build relationships with students. So I guess I'm gonna go back a little bit. As far as what Options for Youth does, has anybody heard of Options for Youth before in the community? A few people? Okay, so basically kind of the way that our program runs, we do run July to June. So we are a true full year-round program, and that's really to allow students to recover credits. We originally started as an academic recovery program, and we'll kind of talk a little bit later about where we're going with that and how that kind of progresses. We do also offer a 6 to 8 week summer program here in Sacramento. That's something that we just started about 3 or 4 years ago. And we do work with all the surrounding school districts to allow students from their schools to come and take part in our summer program to allow students to either catch up on credits, maybe they didn't do so well in the previous school year, or they were able to go and take something so that they could take band or get that zero period back to be able to have more opportunities. So that's something that a lot of the school counselors and things like that, and we have a lot of feedback from the community that's a really positive thing for our school. We are fully WASC accredited, and I know one of the questions tonight was, are you free? Is that something, how much do I have to pay to go to this school? And that question comes up so often. It really does, and I think later on in the presentation you'll kind of see why. We offer so many excellent academic opportunities for students. We have excellent trips. Nothing that a student participates in is ever something that they have to pay for. It is 100% free, all of our trips, all of our field trips, all of our trips to Cuba, to Italy, to China, 100% free to all students and families, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We are a full-time school. We are not just an independent program. It is not an add-on layer to another school. Students are fully and 100% invested in our school and receive a WASC accredited diploma that is transferable to any other school here in the country. One thing that I really appreciated as an educator, and something that I think is really interesting, is the idea. I missed one of the slides. The idea about experiential learning. And one of the quotes that we really stick by at Options for Youth is that people learn from the people they love. And so that relationship piece is so crucial. I don't know how many times I've had a student walk in that's been either suspended or expelled or just really disenfranchised from the school that they were at before. And they come in and they come up and they say, okay, hi, what's your name? Jocelyn. Oh, no, what's your real name? The teacher name. My name's Jocelyn. You don't go by Mrs. No, my name is Jocelyn. And that is the first step that we do in building that relationship with students, to kind of level that playing field, to not have that hierarchy, I'm the teacher, you're the student, but to just really build that relationship. And that's something that is so different, I think, from a lot of different schools. And it is something that I make very clear when I have teachers that come on board and say, hey, this is kind of how it is with our students. We want to make sure that we provide a lot of respect to them as one of our main core values. And so I think that really helps to drive that interaction all the time. Experiential learning is one of our biggest and coolest things that we do. I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier with Italy and Cuba, and we do a camp up in Rocky Mountains in Colorado, and that's an 11-day trip that we send students to go, and it's 11 days of horseback riding, working on a dude ranch, doing community service to make sure that the ranch is functioning, for future students to be able to go and experience all of these great things. We do a unit on Native American studies, and so there's a lot of different things that kind of go into that camp. We also have a camp up in Mendocino. It's a 10-day camp to a working organic farm, and the students get to learn how to make jams, work on outside pizza ovens, really get to learn about nutrition. We do an environmental science camp there that is the actual wet lab component to our environmental science class for one of our years of sciences. So again, students get to get out into nature. A lot of our students never really had an opportunity to be away from home. They stay in yurts. They get to see goats and chickens and go collect eggs in the morning, and it's just a really cool thing that students just may have never even thought of to do, and it's something so just really a cool experience for them. They really have a lot of social emotional conversations and things about grit and optimism, and how can we really okay, we're facing a high ropes course, how do you cheer on somebody that's facing maybe one of their biggest fears? Fear of heights can be really, something that grabs them. So we do offer that camp, and it's just amazing. That's kind of a little bit about Pathways. We also do some other college tours through our Pathways program. We offer a crew program, and we'll talk about that when we get to student advising. Relationship building. Again, it's about those high expectations and showing student success. So, you know, that first name basis kind of is part of our culture, but also part of our culture is to really have high expectations for all students. Many years ago, we had a curriculum that was kind of, when we had students come in at first, they would take an assessment test because we were a reading-based program. And we only had, you know, 1 hour appointments twice a week, and that was our program. And you know, that worked for many, many years, and we've seen the need to grow our program. And with the addition of Common Core, I think that's something that many schools across the country have kind of tried to figure out. How do I really address Common Core standards, and how do we really make independent studies address that information? It is difficult because there is a lot of peer review and different things that the Common Core standards want us to do. And so we've really changed our model to kind of reflect that. And that's one of the cool things about charter schools, is that we can change our model to really reflect what's changing in education, what's changing in our student population, and things like that. So we don't have to go through the full 3-year board approval process for curriculum changes. If we know that curriculum's not working within that first year, and you're looking at the data and the students are not performing in that, we can change our curriculum to address those needs. We can adopt another textbook, we can use another reading program, we can use another evaluation tool to really dig in and find out how our students are learning, why are they not learning it, or what is working really well. And then use a lot of collaboration time within that to really have teachers be able to work with each other to share best practices and really make that work. And so that's really exciting work. That flexibility piece, again, just being able to be flexible, to be able to change our curriculum, be able to look at the growing needs of our students. Every year we have a new group of students, right? And so they all have different interests and things. We had one year, a bunch of students really were excited about fashion. And so they decided they were going to do the fashion club. And so they just got a new advisor, and they kind of worked on that. So every year there's something that students are really passionate about, and as long as we can find an advisor, that's something that we can really, you know, figure out. Do we want to do an independent project? Like, how deep do we really want to get into the learning process of whatever subject that they're really interested in? Because that's really what students can really, once they find an adult that's passionate about something, and they have some like glimmer of that, you can hook that kid right back into education. And that's one of the things that I love so much about my school, is that there's so many students that were just completely disenfranchised with the school. They were just, you know, when I first started, we were, you know, the high school dropouts, that's where those kids went. That's, you know, no other school could deal with these kids and get them to perform. And, you know, a lot of people in the community really were kind of questioning, okay, those options for youth kids, I knew one of them and they weren't the greatest kid, you know, and so there's kind of that negative connotation in a lot of ways, I think, about our schools, because we're not the traditional model. You know, that kid couldn't fit in the traditional model, so they had to go to that school. And so that's one of the things that I'm really proud about, is that I do take those kids. I do take every kid, and we can do great things with every kid, because every child deserves a chance to find a way to get their education, whether it's in the traditional school model, whether it's in the charter school model, whether it's parochial, whether it's homeschool. It's where that child is successful, where I think all of us need to come together to really make sure that we can empower students and really celebrate education in any which way the student can get it. A little background about me: I was also homeschooled from kindergarten to 5th grade. And then I went into a middle school in the public middle school. And then for high school, I went into a private high school. And so I feel very privileged as an educator to have experienced those 3 different types of education, and to really feel like I can talk to most people that come into my school and have that experience, whether they were at private school, whether they were at homeschool, whether they were at a traditional school, and really be able to kind of understand what things they might be experiencing when they come into our program. We just had our WASC visit. Does anybody know what WASC is?
Yes.
It's the accreditation committee for the western side of the country, and they come into different schools, and that's basically what validates a school. It's basically what tells other schools that you can take their credits and apply them, you know, to transfer to different schools, whether your diploma is valid enough from a valid school to go to a college, and things like that. The WASC accrediting team came in, and they said, okay, you're a charter school. And the guy that was our chair, he actually worked for WASC for many years and served on the board that actually decided accreditation terms for the schools here. He was one of like 5 or 6 members on that board for many years. And so he kind of had a preconceived notion about charter schools, and that's okay. I accept the challenge. Come take a look at what we do. I'm really proud of what we do. And so he came in and he talked to people. He talked to parents. He talked to our board members at San Juan. He talked to our teachers and just families. And he said, "You know what, Jocelyn?" I said, "No, what?" He goes, "This is way better than any report you could have ever written. Your parents will walk across fire for your kids in your school. Your school board member loves you. I've never seen a school board so accepting of a charter school, and that's something that's really to be said about the good work that you're doing. You're seeing academic results of your students." And I thought that was really excellent. And we just received our term of accreditation for 6 years with a 1-day visit, which is practically unheard of these days. Most visits are, thank you. It was just very, validating, I think, for my staff that works hard every day in and day out to really try to be innovative and try to do the best that we can. And one of the great things that comes out of charter schools is that we do get to try these innovative ideas and then also give that back to the traditional schools to really be a source of, information for the traditional school system to see what they can even do better. So I think that's one of the things I'm most looking forward to in the school system and working with San Juan School Board is to kind of say, okay, we take all students, not just the cream of the crop, which charter schools, if any of you guys probably read the news in the last 20 years, most charter schools are kind of known as creaming the crop, right? They take their best students and they're doing great things, and that's kind of the traditional knock on charter schools is that, and so being able to really work with students that school districts honestly don't have the time and the resources for in a lot of ways, I think it really adds a service to our community. And that's one of the things as far as working with charter schools. There's a lot of different flavors of charter schools. Charter schools can be your traditional school model, just like a Bella Vista or any of those types of school models. There was a lot of different laws that were happening in the early 2000s that said, hey, if you weren't hitting your API scores or you weren't meeting these certain criteria, any school could be taken over by the state and turned into a charter school. There were some traditional school models that decided as a collective that they wanted to change into our charter schools. The only thing that a charter really means is that it's chartered through a school district, and it's not just an independent school district on its own. So for the school that I work for, we're chartered through the San Juan Unified School District. And so they have a certain oversight fee that they get each year from the students that we work with, which is really nice for San Juan School District because a lot of those students weren't in the traditional school to begin with. We've recovered a lot of dropouts from the community, students that can be successful in our program, whether they're pregnant, parenting, working full-time to help support families. Bullied is a huge population that we're getting right now. A lot of students that are just can't handle it being in the traditional school, kids that don't like being in all the high school drama of high school. And so we're getting a lot of students like that these days, the ones that are online bullying and all that kind of fun stuff. And so being able to provide an option for those families, I think, is just so crucial. And I don't know how many graduations that I've been to where families just said, this was without options for youth. My family, this child would not have a high school diploma and they wouldn't have as bright a future. I know I'm running short on time. I'm going to try to wrap this up here. But I do want to share some cool pictures with you. This was our Cuba trip that I just got back from last week. I took 6 of our San Juan school students to Cuba. And this was one of our community service projects that we had. We worked with a music group that is really big in Cuba called Obsession. And they coordinated a Sunday afternoon activity with all of their children in that community. And so they were doing like a beautification project, and they had some artists coming in from the United States, and we, together with them, painted this little mural. You can kind of see back behind the kids, but we had 20 students working on this mural and doing some really cool things with that, and the meeting with the community there. It was an amazing trip of a lifetime for sure. The community service trip that we had this year was something that we do every year. We look for different organizations to partner up with to provide opportunities for our students to really get involved in the community. This year we did the YOLO Food Bank and a couple different other organizations. So this is a 2-day overnight trip that we do with our students. The years before we went to Oakland Zoo, which was really a cool thing. Got to work with some different horticultures there. This again is Blackbird Farm. The students here are working on just like cleaning up in the ranch. They're making jam here in this middle section. And then they're working on the farm, I think planting strawberries there on the right-hand side. It's really cool. The kids get to harvest the food at the farm and then actually eat it for dinner and work with the kitchen there. So the types of learning that we have at Options for Youth, we do offer many different ways that students can access their education. So it's not just the one-on-one time, but we also offer small group instruction. So we offer our Spanish, we offer our chemistry, our physics, biology, wet labs through that small group instruction courses. The independent study, again, is that original model of the 1 hour twice a week to meet with your homeroom teacher. And then also we do offer online courses for students to take. Let's see. It's okay. Most importantly, I wanted to kind of talk about this. This was our senior signing night that happened last week. And one of the cool things, I became the principal about 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the things that I've always been very passionate about is that all students can succeed. When I was a student teacher down in LUSD, I had a master teacher, and we worked with lower reading levels. We had 9th graders who were getting bused in from the inner city in Los Angeles, about an hour and a half away, and they read at a 4th grade reading level. And the students were really excited to talk to me about college and you know, what's it like to be at college? And you know, I talked with them, and she, you know, came up to me afterwards and she said, you know, don't talk to these kids about college. They're not going to college. They read at a 4th grade reading level. How could they ever read, you know, how could they ever go to college? They're not going to college. And it was that moment in your life where you're like, oh man, this is just not the right thing to have coming out of somebody else's mouth, and I need to take that stand. You know, this is my graduate degree at hand. This is the person that's supposed to be evaluating me, but I lit her up. I said, hey, that's not okay. How dare you have that attitude about students? You have no idea what these kids go through at home. You have no idea. They could not read now. I don't care. You're not going to pull that dream from them. I am not going to pull that dream from them. You need to believe in your students. I refuse to work with you. I'm calling my Pepperdine University advisor right now, and I will request that you no longer ever have student teaching here, because that is not the belief that you should have in your students. How dare you? And I walked out of the room.
Amen.
And I tell that to my staff every day. If you do not believe in these kids, you may be the only person in this room. As an educator here at Options for Youth, you might be the only person in that child's life that believes in them. And so about 3 years ago, I came on. I had been at the school since 2003, but I became the principal there. And we had a big culture shift. And that culture shift was, I'm sending kids to four-year college. I don't care what you guys say. I'm sending kids to four-year college. And my staff looked at me like I was crazy. What? These kids? No, they'll go, Sierra College. They'll go to, ARC and all this. And I said, that's great. I'm really excited about any kid going to any college, but I really, really want to provide that opportunity for our students to be able to go straight from our school to a four-year college. At that time, we had had one student, maybe 2 or 3 years prior, that was a 14-year-old girl who really, had strong parental support, had done some other prerequisite courses at ARC, and she said, she was able to go to UC Davis. I said, I want more kids that are going to UC Davis. I want more kids that are going to four-year college. So that first year, I had a couple supporters on my staff, and I said, okay, let's do this, Jocelyn. So we had 2. We got 2 that got accepted to Sac State. And I was like, all right, 2. I got 2. That's 2 more than I had last year, right? So then the next year, I said, okay, let's my student advisors, and I have great student advisors. Student advisors work with all our grade levels. Each year they do something different. So all ninth graders in my school get to put their feet on a four-year college campus, 100% free field trip. They get to vote on which college they want to go see as a class, and we send them. So that's part of that deal. So fast forward to last week. This was our senior signing day. And just like seniors sign to go to play football or different athletics, we decided that we were going to do a senior signing day for committing to going to a four-year university. This year, we had 27 students that were accepted to a four-year university. And so that, if I die tomorrow, I know I made a difference in 27 kids' lives, and that is what makes an educator's dream happen, right? So thank you so much. I know 8:25 was the money button, so I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for listening.